From the moment January of 2026 arrives, something quiet, yet unmistakably clear, begins to unfold in the life of Libra. It is not loud. It does not seek attention. It does not require a dramatic sign to prove that it is real. It feels more like standing at the doorway of a new room where light spills out from within, and you suddenly know you no longer belong to the darkness behind you. This is not a change born from urgency. It is the result of a long journey where every step you have taken carried meaning of its own. For many years, Libra has learned how to wait, waiting for the right moment, waiting to be understood, waiting for fairness to show up, waiting for quiet efforts to finally be seen. You became skilled at holding everything in balance, even when you yourself were the one tilting. You learned how to smile while uncertainty lived in your heart, how to yield when you too needed to be heard. And there were moments when you wondered whether that patience was truly leading you anywhere at all. But January of 2026 carries a different rhythm, not a rushed one, but a steady, grounded beat. You begin to realize you no longer have to stand on the edge of your own life. The things that once made you hesitate no longer carry the same weight, not because they disappeared, but because you outgrew them. A quiet kind of maturity is taking place, like a tree pushing its roots deeper into the earth without needing anyone to witness it. In that moment, you sense a subtle shift in destiny. Not a miracle arriving from the outside, but an inner alignment, finally agreeing with the road ahead. Questions that once hovered in your mind begin to take shape as answers. Not answers to everything, but enough to let you move forward with peace. Enough to trust that nothing you endured was ever meaningless. There is light in this season, but it is a gentle light. It does not blind you. It does not force you to change overnight. It simply exists, warm enough to make you feel safe, clear enough to keep you from losing your way. Libra begins to allow rest within life itself, instead of constantly staying on guard. You realize that peace is not a reward for sacrifice, but a natural right of a soul that has traveled far enough to understand its own worth. Old emotions may still pass through, but they no longer control you. Memories are no longer burdens. They become proof of the resilience and compassion you have carried for so long. You look back on the past with more tenderness now. No blame, no regret. Just a quiet nod, a silent thank you to yourself for not giving up during the hardest moments. And as you stand here in this space between what was and what is becoming, something deeply important is being planted. The belief that life does not need constant struggle to be meaningful, that the harmony you have always searched for begins within, in the way you treat yourself each day. As that belief takes root, everything around you begins to shift in the most natural way. You may not yet have words for what is opening ahead, but you can feel the spaciousness of it. A way of living where you no longer have to shrink to fit someone else's expectations. A space where you move at your own pace, steady, grounded, and full of dignity. Within that space, the values you hold dear finally find their rightful place, and new opportunities arrive as a quiet response to the perseverance you carried for so many years. And as your breathing deepens, as your heart feels lighter, a sensation spreads, both familiar and entirely new. The feeling that everything is finally settling into its proper order. There is no need to rush into naming the future. Just remain here a little longer, listening to the rhythm of life as it steadies itself, feeling the gentle support that life is beginning to offer you in a way that is uniquely and unmistakably Libra. And it is in that quiet space, when you no longer have to strain yourself to keep the world in balance, that you begin to recognize a truth that has been with you for a very long time, but was never spoken out loud. For the past 20 years, you have been living on an uncommon kind of endurance, a quiet decency that not everyone was perceptive enough to notice. There were seasons when you doubted yourself more than anyone else ever did, not because you were weak, but because you were always trying to see things from every angle, always asking yourself whether you had been fair enough, understanding enough, selfless enough. You grew used to placing other people's emotions first, used to stepping back to keep the peace, used to taking the smaller share so everything else could remain calm. Over time, that habit of yielding became so familiar that you forgot what it felt like to stand firmly in your own place. There were moments when you stayed silent, not because you had nothing to say, but because you trusted that time would eventually reveal the truth. You believed that sincerity, if carried long enough, would be seen, that quiet effort would one day be acknowledged. Yet within that waiting, you carried more than your share of wounds. Unanswered questions, private moments of wondering whether asking for fairness was already asking for too much. Now, standing at this edge of time, something gentle but unmistakably real is taking place. Doubt begins to fall away, not because you finally found perfect answers, but because you no longer need to interrogate yourself the way you once did. You have traveled far enough to understand that kindness does not require self-erasure, that love does not mean enduring in silence, and that true balance only exists when you too are included, valued, and respected within it. Old memories may remain, but they no longer carry the same weight. They feel more like markers along a long road, reminding you of how strong you have been, how patient you have learned to be. You no longer look back with blame. There is no regret, only a deep compassion for the version of yourself who did the best they could with what they had at the time. And then there comes a very quiet moment when you realize you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You do not need to explain why you chose to walk away, why you set boundaries, why you stopped carrying responsibilities that were never truly yours. That calm does not come from becoming cold. It comes from being full enough inside that you no longer search for validation elsewhere. From here, the way you enter relationships begins to change as well, no longer giving endlessly just to be kept. Instead, showing up as two whole people who know how to respect one another. You start to recognize more clearly where you are being nourished and where you are only slowly being drained. And rather than trying to fix everything, you learn to let go with a rare kind of gentleness. Something new begins to take shape within you, like the first time you allow yourself to stand tall, take a full breath, and quietly tell life that you deserve the same fairness you have always offered others. There is no grand declaration, no loud promise, just a subtle shift in the way you treat yourself. And from that shift, the world around you begins to respond in a different order, slower, steadier, and far more sustainable, as if everything is gradually finding its way back to the place where it has always belonged. And when you finally loosen your grip on the things that have been wearing you down, a very subtle movement begins to spread around you. It is not a loud change. It is more like a still lake after the wind has settled, where the ripples slowly return to their natural shape. Life, in its own quiet way, is gently rearranging things for you. What once felt tangled begins to find order. What once felt unfair no longer stands in a place that can throw you off balance. There were moments in the past when you kept asking yourself why you had to wait so long, why your efforts seemed invisible, why opportunities slipped away just when you thought you were finally ready. Now, looking back, you begin to understand that not every delay is a loss. Some things need time to grow, time to strengthen, so that when they arrive, they no longer come as trials, but as genuine support. You start to sense more clearly the invisible line between what truly belongs to you and what was never meant for you. And what feels surprising is this: you no longer have to fight to hold on or to push anything away. What no longer fits leaves your life naturally, like leaves falling when the season has passed. There is no drama, no major collapse, just a spreading sense of relief, as if you have finally set down a weight you carried for far too long. Within this rebalancing, you begin to see your true worth with greater clarity, not through the judgment of others, but through a steady feeling inside. You know what you deserve, and you are calm enough now to stop chasing anything that only brings unease. Each decision you make carries a sense of maturity. No rush, no fear, just alignment with who you have become. There is something deeply reassuring in realizing that you no longer need to interfere so much to keep things on track. Life begins to cooperate with you instead of constantly testing you. Encounters feel more meaningful, opportunities arrive at the right moment, and words you once held inside now come out gently, yet clearly. You are no longer afraid of disappointing others, because you understand that truth, spoken with kindness, always has a place to stand. And within this new flow, you learn something essential. The fairness you have always searched for is not about everything being the same. It is about everything being placed where it truly belongs. When that happens, you no longer have to strain to hold balance. You simply remain yourself, fully present, and allow life to continue doing its work. You may not yet have words for everything that is changing, but you can feel the lightness in each step you take. A deep sense of trust is forming, that what belongs to you cannot be taken away, and what has left was never a solid foundation for your happiness to begin with. In that sense of safety, your rhythm of living grows more harmonious. It slows just enough for you to notice that you are being guided, not by fear, not by lack, but by a new order quietly unfolding, an order where everything, at last, finds the place it truly deserves. And as everything gradually finds its rightful place, a very different kind of flow begins to enter the life of Libra. It is not loud. It does not arrive with sudden surprises that tighten your chest with anxiety. Instead, it feels like a rare sense of safety, like stepping into a solid home, one where you know you can finally set your bags down without needing to look back. This flow carries stability, not flashy abundance, but a quiet sense of enough spreading gently from the inside out. You begin to look at money through a different lens. It is no longer a constant worry, no longer the pressure to run faster, to push harder, just to keep up with someone else's pace. In its place, a soft clarity begins to form. You understand where your true value lives, and you begin to allow life to respond to that value in a way that feels fair. What comes to you during this time is not random luck. It is the natural outcome of your persistence, your wisdom, and your ability to connect, quietly cultivated over many years. You may notice that new opportunities no longer come wrapped in sacrifice. They arrive when you are ready, when you no longer have to trade inner peace for external security. Your work, your projects, your sources of income begin to reflect who you truly are. They offer respect. They offer space to be heard. They offer fair compensation for what you bring. You no longer need to prove your usefulness. Your presence itself already holds value. In this flow, money no longer stands apart from your inner life. It becomes part of a greater harmony, supporting choices that are more humane, more intentional, and more meaningful. You begin to think about the future with a calm that once felt unfamiliar, not through rigid plans, but through the sense that you are being supported. Each financial decision now carries awareness and depth. It does not come from fear of scarcity, but from the desire to build something steady for yourself and for those you love. There are moments when you realize you no longer wake up with a constant worry about tomorrow. Instead, there is a quiet trust that what you are doing is right enough to take you far. Money is no longer a measure of your worth. It becomes a tool that allows you to live in alignment with what you value most. You can choose kindness without fearing loss. You can choose fairness without draining yourself. You can choose abundance without losing the gentle nature that defines Libra. And within this stability, you begin to dream differently. Not dreams you must rush to reach, but visions built step by step, with patience and with trust. You understand now that lasting prosperity does not come from having everything at once. It comes from the ability to maintain balance over time between giving and receiving. As you settle deeper into this new rhythm, something quietly beautiful unfolds. You no longer feel guilty for receiving good things. You no longer question whether you deserve them. You simply receive, with gratitude, with steadiness, with the calm of someone who has walked far enough to know that true peace always travels with sustainability. And in that sense of safety, a new horizon opens, a space where you are no longer living just to survive, but beginning to live to enjoy, to build, and to allow lasting values to take root more deeply in your life. As if this steady current is gently carrying you forward into a place where peace and prosperity are no longer separate things, but one unified force, supporting you with every step you take from here. And when the outer foundation becomes steady enough that it no longer shakes you, something very quiet begins to happen inside. Not a sudden awakening, not a feeling of victory, just an ordinary morning when you notice you are breathing a little deeper, a little slower, and the familiar tension in your chest is no longer there, as if someone gently turned down the volume of the world so you could finally hear the rhythm of your own life. You are no longer pulled into other people's emotions the way you once were. The anxiety, the frustration, the expectations, the disappointments still exist around you, but they no longer drag you away from your center. You begin to stay still within movement, not because you are indifferent, but because you have learned what deserves your attention and what is no longer your responsibility. A soft clarity begins to form, allowing you to be present without forcing yourself. Your mind settles naturally, not because thoughts disappear, but because they stop colliding. They arrive, stay just long enough, and then move on. You no longer react instantly to every situation. Instead, there is a small pause, a quiet space, where you choose how to respond in a way that fits who you have become. Within that pause, you feel a real kind of maturity. No need to prove, no need to explain. You may still face important decisions, but they no longer frighten you. You trust your ability to listen inward. You trust that clarity does not come from overthinking, but from a silence deep enough to recognize what truly matters. Your emotions grow more stable, not because you suppress them, but because you stop fighting yourself. You allow yourself to feel, without letting feelings control the entire direction of your life. In this state, peace is no longer something you search for after exhausting days. It is already here, like solid ground beneath your feet. No matter how far you walk, you know where you stand. You no longer need to escape chaos, because you have built a quiet space within, a place you can return to at any moment. That space does not disconnect you from the world. It allows you to engage with it in a healthier way. Your relationships begin to reflect this change as well. You no longer feel drained after conversations. You know when to listen, when to speak, and when silence keeps your heart light. You stop trying to fix other people's emotions. You stop blaming yourself when things do not unfold as expected. A deeply human acceptance begins to spread toward others and toward yourself. And in very ordinary moments, when you sit alone or walk through a familiar afternoon, you realize you no longer need something big to happen to feel complete. That sense of enough comes from living in alignment with your own rhythm. Every small choice, every quiet thought carries an inner agreement, as if you and life are slowly learning the same language. There is a rare beauty in this state because it does not need to be displayed. It shows in the way you walk more slowly, the way you speak more honestly, and the way you allow what no longer fits to pass without holding on. Peace becomes the foundation for everything else. A foundation strong enough to keep building, to keep loving, and to keep opening yourself to life in your own way, fully. As if this very stillness is quietly preparing you for deeper connections that are already finding their way toward you. And when inner stillness becomes a place you can lean on whenever you need it, the way you step into relationships begins to change, naturally, without effort. Not because you are trying to be different, but because you no longer carry a sense of lack, looking to fill it through someone else's presence. You come to people more whole. And because of that, the connections around you begin to shift as well. There are relationships that once lasted a very long time, once held an important place in your life, that now grow quiet, gently. No more arguments, no long explanations. You simply sense that the thread has fulfilled its purpose. There is no resentment, no regret. You understand that some people come to teach you how to love, and others leave to teach you how to let go, while still remaining kind. In the past, you stayed out of duty, out of responsibility, out of fear of hurting someone else. You tried to keep the peace by sacrificing your own voice, convincing yourself that this was the right thing to do. But now, when you look back, You no longer feel the need to continue connections that make you smaller. Not because you have become cold, but because you have learned to respect yourself first. The new relationships entering your life now carry a very different feeling. They do not make you guarded. They do not require constant guessing or endless self-adjustment. You get to be yourself. Naturally, there is listening in both directions. There is real presence. There is a sense of walking side by side rather than being controlled. You no longer need to explain why you need space, because the other person is mature enough to understand that respect is the foundation of any lasting bond. For many Libras, this is the time when the heart begins to open, slowly but steadily. No more emotional tests that leave you exhausted. No more feeling that love must be proven through endurance. Instead, there is a quiet closeness, a place where you can share without fear of judgment, where you can be silent without fear of being abandoned. Love is no longer a crashing wave. It becomes a steady current, deep enough to nourish, gentle enough to remain. You also begin to realize that healthy relationships do not ask you to abandon yourself. They encourage you to grow, to hold your values, and to move forward with a quiet confidence. You feel supported, not by grand promises, but by consistent actions, small things repeated over time. And it is that consistency that creates the sense of safety you have been searching for so long. There is a deeply human beauty in the way your connections are being rearranged. Relationships that no longer fit slowly step back, making room for people who can share a similar rhythm of life. Not everyone stays, but those who do bring sincerity with them. You do not need crowds to feel fulfilled, just the right people, at the right time, in the right way. In this new space, you learn that love does not need to be loud to be deep. Sometimes, it is simply the feeling of being understood without saying too much, of being close without pressure. And when you allow yourself to step into connections like this, you are also helping shape a gentler world, one where people treat each other with respect and with awareness. As your heartbeat steadies within these relationships, as you no longer feel the need to defend yourself or fear loss, something beautiful begins to take form. You start to hear your inner voice more clearly, a voice that guides you not only in love, but in every choice you make in life. And in listening to it, a very personal light begins to awaken, quietly, softly, yet with real power, as if these authentic connections are opening a deeper door in your journey of growth, gently showing you the way forward, one calm, confident step at a time. And within this space of carefully filtered connections, something deeply important begins to speak inside you, not loudly, not urgently, not asking you to act right away. Just a familiar feeling, as if you are remembering a part of yourself that was set aside for far too long. This is the moment you begin to trust what you feel, not because someone tells you that you should, but because you have lived enough to recognize when your heart is telling the truth. You realize that for many years, you already knew the answer early on. You simply pushed it aside to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to keep from disappointing anyone. You became used to asking others before asking yourself, used to adjusting your decisions to fit the expectations around you. But now, that pattern no longer runs your life. Not because you have become hard, but because you are clear enough to stop doubting your own intuition. Some decisions come to you quickly now, and you are surprised by the calm that comes with them. No more inner struggle, no more thinking yourself into exhaustion. You feel a deep inner agreement, as if every part of you is nodding at the same time. Intuition does not speak in grand statements. It simply points to a direction, quiet, clear, convincing enough for you to follow without needing to explain yourself to anyone. In this state, you stop trying to please everyone. You understand that other people's comfort cannot be the compass for your life. You begin to choose truth over convenience, clarity over confusion, the path that lets you sleep peacefully at night over the one that brings applause. And something interesting happens. When you make these choices with calm and respect, the world around you begins to adjust as well. Your personal power does not arrive as a loud declaration. It settles in as a solid foundation. You see it in the way you say no without guilt, in the way you say yes without overpromising, You stop over-explaining your choices. You understand that those who truly respect you will feel the honesty in your decisions, even if they do not fully agree. There is a deep freedom in this phase, freedom from living by someone else's script, freedom from constantly proving who you are. You begin to feel that you are leading your life from the inside instead of reacting to what happens on the outside. And that inner leadership creates a new kind of safety, one that does not depend on circumstances or approval. Your intuition grows more refined as well. You sense the energy of a place, the sincerity in someone's words, even what remains unspoken. You no longer need to analyze endlessly to know what is right for you. Clarity arrives quickly, and you trust it enough to act, enough to let go, enough to wait when waiting is what feels right. Living this way, you come to understand that true power is not about controlling everything. It is about choosing with awareness. You do not need to raise your voice to be heard. You do not need to fight to be recognized. Simply by showing up as yourself, what belongs to you finds its way to you, and what no longer fits moves on its own. In this deep listening, a profound calm begins to spread. As if you are walking through a familiar forest, without a map, without directions, because you have learned to trust each step you take. And that trust is gently opening a wide horizon ahead. A place where you are not only moving in the right direction, but beginning to understand the deeper meaning of living in alignment with yourself. A meaning strong enough to support you on the long road ahead, where everything you have lived through seems to be coming together, quietly preparing you for a sense of wholeness, of sustainability that is already waiting for you just beyond this moment. And as you walk forward with that gentle guidance, a very different feeling begins to settle over your entire life. Not a sense of victory, not a fleeting satisfaction. It is a deep sense of ease, like finally sitting down after a long journey, no longer checking the clock, no longer worrying about whether you are ahead or behind anyone else. Time is no longer something to chase. It becomes a quiet companion, walking beside you day by day, allowing you to live each moment more fully. The next 20 years do not open as a flashy promise, but as a wide enough space for you to live in alignment with who you have become. You no longer need to prove your worth, because that worth is already present in every choice you make. Prosperity comes to you now without the anxiety of losing it, without the fear that it might disappear. It arrives as a natural result of living truthfully, of standing in the right place for you, and of no longer resisting the true rhythm of your life. There are mornings when you wake up and realize you are no longer carrying the heaviness of yesterday. The worries that once kept you awake at night no longer sit at the center of your mind. You look at life with a softer gaze, with more compassion for the world and for yourself. You no longer question whether you are on the right path. The steady feeling inside you answers that question before you ever need to ask it. In this season, what you receive is not only material reward, but a deeper kind of richness. You have time to slow down, to feel, to connect in the most genuine way. You choose quality over quantity, depth over noise. Small joys become more visible. Simple things bring lasting fulfillment. You no longer need much to feel whole, and that is exactly what makes your life feel more abundant than ever. This sense of peace does not separate you from the world. It allows you to be present in it with a very different posture. You contribute through balance, through fairness, through your ability to connect people in a deeply human way. You do not need to become anyone else. By living in alignment with your values, your presence alone becomes a quiet source of inspiration for those around you. There is a unique beauty in this era of Libra. It does not need a spotlight. It does not require loud recognition. It shows in the way you remain calm through change, in the way you keep your kindness even after becoming strong, in the way you allow yourself to receive without guilt. You understand now that giving and receiving are not opposing forces, but two essential breaths that keep life in balance. And then there are very quiet moments when you look back at the road you have traveled and feel no regret, only a silent gratitude for everything that helped you grow. You no longer need to run. You no longer need to rush. You are living in your own rhythm, a rhythm slow enough to feel, steady enough to trust, and wide enough to keep opening your heart to what lies ahead. Within that rhythm, everything seems to find its rightful place. Work, love, inner life. They begin to blend together in a natural harmony. You no longer have to divide yourself to meet different roles. You are one, whole, and at peace within that wholeness. And as you continue forward on this path, no promises need to be spoken. Your presence alone, right here, full, steady, is living proof that when a person lives true to themselves, life knows how to respond with fairness and with the deepest gentleness.